Hello, beautiful friends. We are entering that magical time of year known as eclipse season. And we have 2 eclipse seasons every single year. It's a really natural, rhythmic part of every single year. It's woven into the whole language of how we live a year in this solar system, right? Which is so based around the sun and the way we count time and our own existence. So right away, I just want to say with eclipse seasons, because they're such an innate part of a solar year, this is something that we can relax into a little bit more. I think so often eclipse seasons, they have this reputation that precedes them. We'll immediately start getting messaging around their intensity and how much we need to prepare for them and how we might feel really exhausted, overwhelmed, tired, scared, all of these kind of subtle messages and not so subtle messages about the impact of an eclipse. But the reality is that we have 2 eclipse seasons every year. So this is just a natural point of recalibration, skin shedding, checking in and connecting with ourselves. And of course, we're each going to have our own personal experience with each moon, each eclipse. And there are some eclipses that just have this poetic, powerful place in the collective consciousness that will hit a little harder. Of course, that can happen. But I just want to preface eclipse season in general and the Scorpio solar eclipse to say that sometimes eclipses can also work as a place of deep love and grace. And often they do, because there are so many eclipses in every single year. This year we have 4 eclipses, and most years it's going to be 4 eclipses. Now, right now we are having eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio because we have the north node in Taurus and the south node of the moon in Scorpio. And that means that we also will have our eclipses in these 2 signs. A last eclipse season, the last time we had an eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, it was a lunar eclipse on May 15th into the 16th, 2022. So just about 6 months later, we're doing the Scorpio solar eclipse and new moon here on October 25th. So this is also about the 6-month cycle. If you're feeling like thinking about these last 6 months and what that has brought you and how you have grown, it's a really nice way to bookend an eclipse season. Now, Scorpio is also right now, the south node of the moon is in Scorpio. So this is also reminiscent. Not only is it an eclipse, we're also working with the south node. We're also working with a new moon solar eclipse. All of this is about release, letting go, as well as opening up. This is about what we are ready to release. And it's funny, because eclipse seasons and eclipse conversations, it feels like they need to be really big and bold and juicy and dramatic and like over the top almost. Like I feel like I need to come in here with my dramatics. Like I should have like an extra special outfit on, like crazy makeup, different lighting, everything. But the more I sat with this Scorpio solar eclipse and the more I sat with what's going on here, the simpler the message came through, until it just made me realize that this is a moment to sit in really deep grace and self-compassion. And it follows really beautifully with after the full moon in Aries we just had, as we head into this Scorpio solar eclipse and new moon. So the big thing here with this solar eclipse, we have the sun and moon conjunct, of course, making the new moon. We also have Venus conjunct the sun and the moon. Now, this is the main aspect when it comes to this eclipse, that the sun, moon, and Venus are all at 2 degrees of Scorpio. I love that so much. I love the poetry of that so much. It is just the warmest feeling I have in my heart. Because Scorpio energy, like eclipse seasons, often gets categorized as being about the intensity of something, about the possessiveness, about the shadow side. And of course, those are archetypal elements of Scorpionic energy. However, Scorpio is also a really, really important key factor in us being our authentic selves, giving ourselves compassion. And Scorpio energy is a lot about healing. Coming home to ourselves, letting go of old costumes and containers, because Scorpio is so tied to death and rebirth, regeneration, with the ability to change shape, to change form. A solar eclipse in this sign is such a gift to really welcome and honor how we have changed. The main thing here, and with Venus mixed in here, Venus is going to amplify this desire for beautiful, loving, nurturing conversation to happen. And to do it from a really true place deep inside of us, way beyond the surface level performance we have to put on, way beyond who we think we need to perform as, right? Because Scorpio energy also allows us access to the shadow side, to the parts of ourselves that are afraid or worried or scared, and also the parts of ourselves that are wild, that are free, that are not in bondage to cultural expectations and norms. And that's where I'm getting to with this Sun, Moon, Venus conjunction during the solar eclipse, is that this is a time to just be so honest with yourself. Can you just feel your body relax when you let yourself say what is deeply true to you in this moment to yourself? You don't necessarily need to broadcast it to everybody in the world during the solar eclipse, but this is about really sitting and allowing what is really true for us in this present moment, how we've changed, how we've grown, letting ourselves fully hear what has changed and grown within us, and to feel that release of trying to pretend that we haven't changed in these ways, trying to pretend that we can still wear the old costumes, trying to pretend that we can still hold on to the same, friendships or location or identity, however we've been changing this year. It's this really beautiful moment for us to just acknowledge that we have indeed changed. And even some of the tasks, ideas, performances that we put on that have meant a lot to us and have been very genuine and important in our lives, maybe they have changed as well. And it might feel scary or intimidating to say out loud to ourselves, I don't want to do this anymore, even though I love it so much. Sometimes, we just are longing to change things up, even though we don't know what that's going to look like or how it's going to happen. This eclipse is really about giving ourselves permission to honor and acknowledge and say fully in the presence of ourselves, in total honesty with ourselves, what it is that has really changed, rather than feeling like we need to run away from it all the time or that we need to kind of make up for it. And that's the other part of this. It is an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse. It's big energy, right? So it's about release. It's about letting go of old cords. It's about releasing tension in our bodies. So just taking, letting your shoulders drop, loosening up a little bit. This is a great solar eclipse to take a long hot bath, stretch, stretch those hips. A lot of emotions hidden in there, stretch your spine, your arms, to just release tension, quite literally on a physical level, as well as on an emotional level. This is a really great time to release any old cords that you might have from past years, past relationships, even cords you have to old versions of yourself from the beginning of this year or even 2 years ago. It's a really great time to do that. The other part of this is that new moon aspect, is the other side of eclipse season, which is about how we want to open up the next chapter. And this has to do with how we want to treat and speak to ourselves moving forward, and being really, really clear with the way that we are going to treat ourselves. This Scorpio solar eclipse and this eclipse season is going to have a lot of themes around our inner dictator, our inner ruler that's trying to keep us in line and trying to keep us to maintain the status quo, to keep us safe, help us survive. And that being something that needs to be loved on and recognized, but also then we need to be really, really clear about what role that dictator is going to play in our lives, and then be really clear and creative about how we want to treat ourselves internally moving forward. And this gets a lot easier once we have been honest with ourselves. I remember, this year in this space, as most of you probably who are hanging out with me here know, I've gone through a lot of changes in the work that I do on this channel. And I stepped away from doing the monthly readings. And it was really, really scary to tell myself the truth about that. I didn't want to have to actually say to myself, I want to change. I want to do something different. I'm ready to let go. That was so scary for me to admit to myself. It was keeping me up at night. It was making me feel really rigid, really tense. I was wondering why things weren't flowing in my life as easily. And there was such relief in just acknowledging that that was a way that I had changed, rather than trying to run from it, rather than trying to maintain it. And then what happened is I was allowed to start to speak to myself in new ways. And that's an important other aspect of this solar eclipse, and something that I think many of us will probably be working on in the days after the solar eclipse, in those few days after the eclipse itself. Many of us are probably going to kind of think about how we want to treat ourselves moving forward as we sit in our truths. And just to take a breath and to feel through that voice that's full of grace and compassion and curiosity, and that says, I'm so glad you are saying the honest truth about what you feel and what you need, so that I can come in and we can start to create again together as a whole being, and not as who we think we used to be or who we think we need to maintain as who we are. There's just really, really beautiful letting go and release that is happening during this full new moon and solar eclipse in Scorpio. And it's about being at peace with ourselves. And I think too, there's so many layers to this topic. We could go on for a long time, but I think this is also a really beautiful solar eclipse to forgive yourself. You know, we can come up with all the ways that we didn't try hard enough, that we didn't do enough. You know, we might haunt ourselves with a memory of something, a memory of a way something was handled or something we said. This is also a really important solar eclipse to forgive yourself. If you feel like you are just holding on to something, that you feel like you just want to fix it, you could have done better, and you have this voice that just never lets you rest. Now, this is a beautiful time to sit with yourself and let it breathe, let it move through you and out of you, so that you can access the deeper truth, which is that we're not perfect, and we do learn through some of those times when we feel like we could have done it better, and hindsight's so clear sometimes, but also that it doesn't negate who we are now in this present moment. It doesn't mean that we are wrong for existing now in this present moment, and it's okay to let go a little bit. And if you're feeling like it, on that note, this is also a beautiful time to release any tension, regrets that have to do with other people as well. If you feel like you want to, it doesn't necessarily have to be about forgiveness, but it's a beautiful time if you're just wanting to release some of those tethers from past experiences that are ready to go. This is also a really, really great time to do that. So overall, I guess it is an impactful topic. But I think that can also be just a feeling of total peace, and feeling our body release tension and tightness and holding on and all that control stuff, so that we can really be present with our whole selves now. And that's really what the role of Venus in this whole solar eclipse situation is doing. So let's see what card wants to come out, or cards. I guess I'll pull two. I love the number 2. And as I said, 3 came out of the deck, so we're going to do 3 cards. Queen of Pentacles, Ace of Cups, 3 of Wands. Okay, beautiful cards. Hard to argue with these. And it's very much the eclipse way, right? This is about renewal, and it's about skin shedding. And, Scorpio is connected to the symbol of the snake. And snakes are so important, Ouroboros, they have so much symbolism about death and rebirth and about regeneration. And snakes also shed their skin, right? They molt, they get too tight in their skins, and they have to leave it behind. And this is such a solar eclipse based on that kind of imagery. So let's get into it. Queen of Pentacles. This is an honest card. This is a very earthy, grounded card, right? I think one of the important messages that comes up whenever we're working with Queen of Pentacles is to make sure you are grounding and take care of yourself, right? So like on a basic level, this is a very watery new moon solar eclipse, right? We're working with a lot of energy in Scorpio here. which is beautiful. I love it. I love the symbolism, the energetics, but it's really nice to ground yourself. So put your feet on the ground, check in with your body. It's a big message that comes up with Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles is also about the grounded, earthy honesty that we have with ourselves. In grounding ourselves, we can say, yeah, I'm ready to let this go, or I'm ready to change, or I can acknowledge how I've changed. So this is just a really nice check-in, getting our grounding, getting our orientation, checking in with what's really true. Now from there, we have two very adventurous cards, the Ace of Cups and the Three of Wands. And I think many of us feel very good seeing these two cards in the conversation because, of course, aces are important in that they come after a 10 in a series, right? In the tarot world, you have aces through 10s in each of the suits. And so a 10 comes, which is a culmination and an ending. The aces innately come in after a 10, right? So this is about what happens when we have released, when we let go, and we're open now. We have the spaciousness now to welcome in this Ace of Cups. And like I said, I think one thing to keep in mind with eclipses in general is that we have the eclipse itself happening on the 25th, right? And this phenomenon happening, which this is a partial solar eclipse, by the way. So it's not a total solar eclipse. It's not going to be a huge show in the world. But we're going to have the eclipse itself, and then we're going to have the days and weeks after. And I think that's what these two cards are speaking to. When we create spaciousness, new energetics start to come in. So the Ace of Cups represents that, totally new beginnings. And the Three of Wands represents something that has been a long time in the works. It is the ships coming in from a long sailing. Something that we have been longing for or wondering about is starting to arrive and become visible to us. So these are really beautiful energetics. And that's what I'm saying. This Scorpio solar eclipse is mostly about support. It's mostly about supporting us in the compassion and the love that happens when we let ourselves transform, when we no longer hold grudges against ourselves for changing, and we allow that change to happen, and then we feel the spaciousness of what wants to come in next. That's exactly what this particular eclipse is wanting to do. And of course, we are going to be continuing this eclipse season conversation in a couple of weeks with the Taurus total lunar eclipse that it will be conjunct Uranus. So this is only the first part of eclipse season. We will get into that in our next chat about the eclipses, and it will be a really nice bookend to what we've just done here and creating some spaciousness and opening ourselves up. So I'm really excited to come back here with you and hang out with some of Taurus's energy and what's going on there. I would love to see you on Patreon. We are going to do an activation for this total eclipse, it's a partial solar eclipse, excuse me. We're going to be doing activation. I'm going to be helping us to kind of open that spaciousness and feel that release so that we can really hear what wants to come in next. I do that for every single new full moon, every single eclipse. So I'd love to see you over there. It's going to be a really wonderful conversation and visualization to do with me. And we do so many fun things together over there. I'd really appreciate you joining me. You can also find me on Instagram, on my website, all the good places. So I hope to see you in any and all of those places, my beautiful friends. Stick around here because we have a lot more coming up in the weeks ahead, and eclipse season is just beginning. I'll talk to you so soon.